December 9th, 1945. The cold German air cut through a landscape still scarred by war. Near Mannheim, a quiet railroad crossing stood, just another point on the map, seemingly unremarkable. The fields, once torn by tanks, now lay silent under a thin frost, witnesses to a fragile peace. The world was exhausted, yearning for healing after years of conflict, but for one legendary American general, this ordinary crossing would become the site of his final battle. Here, fate would intervene, not with gunfire, but with the sudden crunch of metal. The enemy was not an army, but chance itself. Even in peace, survival can hinge on a single, unpredictable moment. At this lonely intersection, history would take a sharp, tragic turn. General George S. Patton, Jr. was a man built for war, aggressive, audacious, and legendary. His very presence commanded attention, and his reputation for boldness on the battlefield was matched only by his relentless drive to win. Patton thrived in chaos, where his instincts and leadership could shine brightest. He led his Third Army across Europe with relentless speed, becoming a symbol of American might. Under his command, soldiers pushed forward day and night, breaking through enemy lines and liberating towns. Patton's strategies were daring, and his troops respected his unwavering determination. But with Germany's surrender, Patton found himself trapped in a world of paperwork and politics. The thunder of artillery was replaced by the shuffle of documents and endless meetings, a far cry from the adrenaline of combat. As military governor of Bavaria, he struggled with bureaucracy and the slow grind of reconstruction. The challenges of rebuilding a shattered nation tested his patience, and the rules of occupation often clashed with his direct approach. His bluntness, once tolerated, now made him a liability. In the delicate post-war environment, his outspoken nature drew criticism and controversy, further isolating him from his peers. Restless and frustrated, Patton longed for the clarity of battle, not the murky politics of peace. The quiet of peacetime felt suffocating, and he struggled to find meaning in his new role. Scheduled to return home a hero, he instead felt exiled from the only world he understood. The applause and medals could not fill the void left by the end of combat. Seeking escape, he planned a simple pheasant hunt, a brief return to action, if only for a day. It was a chance to reconnect with the thrill of pursuit, to feel alive outside the confines of his office. That decision, meant to offer relief, would set the stage for tragedy. In searching for solace, Patton unknowingly stepped toward fate. The general who had survived countless battles was about to face his most unpredictable foe. Not an enemy army, but the randomness of life itself. Sometimes the greatest dangers come not from enemies, but from the ordinary. The everyday can be just as perilous as the battlefield, and fate can turn in an instant. Patton's final journey began not with a command, but with a longing for purpose, a search for meaning in a world that no longer needed warriors like him. Patton's ride that day was a 1938 Cadillac staff car, solid, imposing, and built for command. In the back sat Patton and his chief of staff, General Hobart Gay, old comrades sharing memories of war. The plan was simple: a drive to a hunting lodge, a day of sport, a break from duty. But Patton's regular driver was absent, replaced by 19-year-old Private Horace Woodring. The subtle trust between general and driver was missing, a small but crucial change. The car's glass partition, meant for privacy, now separated the men in front from those in back. Patton and Gay reminisced, lost in the past, while Woodring focused on the unfamiliar road ahead. Two worlds divided by glass moved together toward a single fateful moment. The smallest variables, a new driver, a different rhythm, were already in play. Fate was quietly taking the wheel. Along for the ride was Willie, Patton's loyal bull terrier, shivering in the front seat. Patton, ever compassionate to animals, asked the driver to stop so Willie could join him in the back. To make room, Patton shifted from his usual right rear seat to the left, directly behind the driver. A simple act of kindness, comforting a dog, changed the seating arrangement in the car. No one could have known how significant this small gesture would become. Had Patton stayed in his usual seat, the outcome might have been different. The journey resumed, the generals chatting, the dog content. The Cadillac rolled on, every mile bringing them closer to the crossing and to destiny. Sometimes fate turns on the smallest decisions. In this case, it was the warmth of a dog that set the course for history. Near Mannheim-Käfertal, the Cadillac rolled steadily toward a frosty railroad crossing, its tires crunching over the icy road. The winter air was sharp, and the landscape was still, as if holding its breath for what was about to unfold. Ahead, a military truck idled, waiting for a train to pass. Suddenly, without warning, the truck lurched forward, turning directly into the Cadillac's path, leaving only seconds to react. Private Woodring slammed on the brakes and swerved desperately, but the icy road offered no grip. The collision was inevitable, the screech of metal echoing in the cold air. The Cadillac struck the truck at about 30 miles per hour, a grinding, low-speed crash that sent shockwaves through the car and its passengers. In the front, Woodring and Gay were jolted violently, their bodies thrown forward, but they survived with only minor injuries, shaken but alive. In the back seat, Patton, caught off guard and unprepared, was hurled forward by the force of the impact. Seated directly behind the driver, his head struck the steel partition with devastating force, the blow sudden and merciless. Instantly, he realized the gravity of his injury. "I think I'm paralyzed," he told Gay, his voice calm and clear despite the chaos, his composure unbroken. The general who had survived the chaos and violence of war was undone by a moment's chance, a twist of fate on a quiet German road. Even in crisis, Patton directed his own rescue, his mind sharp and commanding. Though his body failed him, he remained a leader to the end. The battlefield was now a wrecked car on a quiet, empty road, far from the front lines, but no less tragic. Fate had claimed its victory in silence, leaving only the cold wind and the memory of a single life-altering moment. Patton was rushed to the hospital in Heidelberg. The world held its breath. The diagnosis, paralyzed from the neck down. The man of action, now motionless, faced his final battle, not against armies but against his own broken body. He remained lucid, directing his care with the discipline of a commander. His wife, Beatrice, arrived, finding him courageous and even joking in the face of despair. Patton accepted his fate with stoic resolve, remarking, "This is a hell of a way to die." 12 days later, on December 20th, 1945, he died quietly from a blood clot. He chose to be buried with his men in Luxembourg, not in Arlington, a final act of loyalty. The warrior's last stand was fought not with weapons, but with dignity. Even in death, Patton remained a soldier among soldiers. The Cadillac was repaired and returned to service, its dark history known to few. Eventually, its significance was recognized, and it was preserved at the Patton Museum in Kentucky. Visitors can see the very seat, the partition, the space where fate intervened. The car is now a powerful artifact, a silent witness to the randomness of history. It reminds us that even the greatest lives can be altered by the smallest events. A different driver, a different seat, a moment's hesitation, any could have changed the outcome. The Cadillac stands as a symbol of chance, a monument to the unpredictability of fate. It invites us to reflect on the what-ifs that shape history. Sometimes the most significant battles are fought in silence, far from the front lines. Patton's story offers a lesson in survival and humility, reminding us that even the most celebrated leaders are not immune to fate's twists. He was a master of preparation, a commander who left little to chance, always thinking several moves ahead and inspiring confidence in those who served under him. Yet his end came not from an enemy he could outthink, but but from a random chain of events that no amount of planning could have foreseen. The ultimate survivor was undone by the unpredictable, a new driver, a shivering dog, a sudden turn, small details that changed everything in an instant. We can prepare for dangers, build defenses, and train for every scenario, but we can never eliminate chance or control every outcome. True resilience is not just planning for every threat, but facing the unforeseen with courage, adapting to what we cannot predict, and enduring hardship with resolve. Patton, paralyzed, showed this deeper strength, accepting what he could not change, meeting fate with dignity, and inspiring those around him even in his final days. His final battle was not on a battlefield, but in a hospital bed, where he faced his greatest challenge with the same determination he brought to war. The lesson: greatness is measured not by avoiding tragedy, but by how we face it, and by the grace with which we accept the things we cannot change. For historians and survivalists alike, Patton's end is a powerful reminder of life's fragility and the unpredictable nature of our journey. Sometimes the greatest courage is found in acceptance and in the quiet strength to face the unknown with honor.